Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the My Football Writer YouTube channel, and welcome back once again to some transfer talk. Norwich still ever so active in the summer transfer window. About a month now before the season begins with that home game against Millwall, and then they go to playing Portsmouth at 12:30 kickoff at Fratton Park. The new kit is out as well, so let us know your thoughts on that in the comments. We won't do a video about that because there's actually quite a few more important matters, including this one for today's video. You've seen the thumbnail and the title. This is a signing that fills me with excitement. This is a very, very ambitious signing if Norwich are to pull it off. They're in pole position as it stands to almost pull it off. Matthias Kvistgaarden, the Danish striker who's coming in from Bromby. As we do in these videos, we'll give you a bit more information, a bit more background info about the player, where they play and the season for them just gone, and more about the deal itself, and just try to educate you as best we can on the player. But before I go into that and the points that I've sort of already alluded to, this signing is phenomenal. If Norwich do pull this off, this is a real statement of intent. That it may be dependent on a couple of things, but as it stands, Norwich and Brøndby are in conversation that they feel like a sale can be arranged, and this is amazing. The fact Norwich have got this far with the deal. Kvistgaarden's a player who's had major interest in him from big European leagues. RC Lens of Ligue 1, who are going to be playing European football, I believe, are the sort of were the front runners, and Norwich amazingly look as if they may have convinced him to come to the Championship, which is phenomenal. But enough about that. Let's go into the detail. So first things first, 23 years old. He's Danish. So that if this was last season, this would have been perfect. A young player of Danish nationality coming in. Johannes Torp would have loved this, but he's no longer here. But you look at that straight away, and there's already players who can make him feel at home. Oscar Svartau, he was playing with him last season, so there's that element of it that there's lads who can help him settle in if he is to come to Norwich. 23 years old, as I mentioned. Believe that would make him, if you exclude Jacob Wright, who was here last season and made the move permanent, he's Norwich's youngest signing of the window, but with the hype around him and the interest, you can see why, and we'll get onto that in a second as to maybe why a lot of clubs want him despite his sort of younger age. But it somewhat goes against Norwich's sort of transfer strategy so far this season. They've brought in players who are of cheaper deals. Again, we'll get onto that in a second. This won't be a cheap deal for Norwich, but who are in their prime years as well. You look at Medic and also Kovacevic and Darling. I think Kovacevic 25, and then Darling and Medic are 26, and then Dan Grimshaw, who I want to say is 28 or 29. Louis Molden, albeit also 23, but he's sort of more for the backup picture at Norwich. But no, this very much feels like a signing of last season. A young player with a lot of promise, who has shown good things in his respective league in Denmark, and of Danish origin. But no, Ben Napper has clearly seen something here, and as I've sort of already alluded to, if he pulls this off, you have to tip your hat off to him. No, it looks brilliant, and as well to Liam Manning for being on board and identifying that Norwich sort of need this sort of player. It's great really, this deal. But I'll stop sort of waffling on about my opinions on it, and we'll get on to sort of the more factual stuff. So moving on to the next point, right-footed player. So again, as we've seen in a lot of these transfer talk videos, Norwich are loving the right footers right now. They're loving, unlike last season with Johannes Torp, it was all about the left footers. So it's another right footer, but he is a striker. Now this is where it sort of, you then begin to think, well, hang on, what are Norwich going to do here? He can also play on the left side of attack. He's been utilised there quite a few times by Brøndby over the, I want to say, 146 appearances he's made for the club. So you then look at that as well and think, well, hang on, Norwich have already got two pretty good players for the Championship, and they got one in left wing, one in striker. what does that mean? Instantly you think, is Borja Sainz off? Is Josh Sargent off? That there's been no real sort of advancements made on sort of rumours as such around those two players. We know that Sainz is probably the more likely to leave. There's a lot more clubs interested in Sainz. Sargent, there has been big interest. Wolfsburg have been interested recently, but doesn't seem like that's going to happen from what's sort of been reported as such. So if anything, say Sainz and Sargent don't go, this adds a big, nice bit of attacking calibre. In terms of depth, it's brilliant, but you do probably reckon that this signing will. It strikes me as they're they're obviously preparing for a big departure, and they're waiting for one of the big two that we've just mentioned to go on. So it's not exactly a contingency plan, because they really want this player and they're going to spend quite a fair bit of money on him. Again, we'll get onto that in a minute. But no, at the very least, they're getting in a player here who has got a lot of potential and is showcasing already so much talent. They're this again. You look at, in an attacking position, Norwich do arguably need depth there, and they need quality in depth, and this is exactly what they're doing. So no, another striker to be brought in. Obviously, already have Sargent and Sienats, who, of course, Sargent will start every game. Sienats is a player who has got a lot of promise, but Kvistgaarden as well. It will be a lot of competition, that's for sure, for that starting striker role. But we'll go on to his statistics of last season. So, as already mentioned, plays at Brondby, where Norwich signed Oscar Svartau off, where they signed Teemu Pukki off. So they haven't done too bad when they've signed players from Brondby. But let's talk about these stats. In the Danish Superliga, 29 games, 17 goals. That's not bad at all. That is not bad at all. That's pretty much, well, it's better than a goal every other game, which as a striker, a lot of them, they aspire to score a goal every other game. If you can do that over the course of a career, you're a pretty good striker, regardless of what level you play. So no, that is very impressive, especially for someone who is still of a younger age, and is just about to then hit the peak of their footballing career and their physicality. So no, it's very impressive. It goes without saying. 17 goals in 29 is thoroughly impressive. We'll get onto his stats in all competitions, because he also played in the Conference League. I want to say that was qualifying games, played in the Cup as well, but we'll get onto his overall season in a second. But no, it's very good. It's very, very good. You want a striker to score you a fair amount of goals, and he does. He clearly does exactly that. So no, Norwich aren't exactly, they're not signing a striker here who, scores a couple of goals here and there and looks good, and who's got decent goal scoring record. No, this is very good. As I've sort of just said there, a goal every other game, better than that. That's decent. That's top striker form, really. But let's go on next to the actual deal. Itself. There isn't too much sort of on this, due to at most right now, Norwich and Bromby are talking as like representatives are talking about getting a deal done, and they believe that a sale can be completed. But it's more come from, rather than Connor Southwell's reporting from the Pink 'Un, which is where a lot of the basis of this video is coming from, and that information, it's more come from, I believe it's Tipspalbet, I want to say. I apologise to the company and any readers of them if I've butchered that name, but they reported about this first, and in the interest, it seems like a deal would be £11 million. That would be a club record signing for Norwich City. That is how much they want this player. That's what it strikes to me, because Norwich aren't a team who really break their transfer record very often. You look at the last few times they've done it. They spent a lot on Ante Sienats, in all fairness, but that then ended up not being as much as they spent on Gabriel Sara, who was a club record signing. The one before that is going to escape me, which is really, really frustrating. But you look over the years, there was Ricky van Wolfswinkel, Then they didn't break it for nearly, well, a season and a half, and then they bought Stephen Naismith and Tim Closer, but they did that in a January window where they were fighting to stay in the Premier League and they had a genuinely really good chance. So they sort of, sort of had to, in a way. You then look at the years gone by. After that, bringing Gabriel Sara, who was brilliant in the Brazilian league, and you look at now what he's gone on to, it's fair enough. Norwich broke their transfer record, but here, this is huge because Gabriel Sara was signed, what, 2 or 3 seasons ago now? So Norwich haven't spent a record amount of fee. I don't think they've ever spent more than £10 million on a player, which is, well, you can look at that any way you want to. But no, this to me shows huge ambition. In a season where a massive rebuild was needed, a new manager, and in Liam Manning, he's cleared out all of, well, not all of the squad, but he's cleared out quite a fair few players in terms of whose contracts were up and who expired. He cleared out all the goalkeeping team, brought in his own one in. He's got his own backroom staff coming with him as well, and now he's not even been Norwich manager, 2 months, maybe not even a month yet, and he's already looking at breaking the record fee with along with Ben Napper. That shows huge ambition. You don't just sign an attacking player with decent stats for a club record fee because the club we bought him off wanted a fair bit of money, so we had to spend it, and that's that. There's an aspect there of you have to really want a player to break a record fee and spend a lot of money on them. For Norwich, £11 million is a lot of money. It is, as I've said, they've not signed a player for 10 million plus. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but from my memory, what it serves me, I cannot recall Norwich spending 10 million or more on a player. So no, it's big. It's really, really big news, and it fills probably a lot of people with excitement. Certainly has with me, as you can probably tell with my tone over the video. But that's the biggest thing of this deal for me, is the fact Norwich are spending 11 million. It's huge for them. That shows that they're not desperate as such. That's probably the wrong word for it. They're just so keen on Kvistgaarden, and they really want a deal done. They want to fight off the competition. The fee probably, it's not impossible for Norwich to spend it. Of course not, but it is very unlikely at times you'd ever think Norwich would spend that much. You'd think maybe that would be a factor that drove them away from signing the player, but no, they're still so firm on their interest and they want to bring him in. So yeah, that's just great. It's great to see, just from Ben Napper and the staff there who are looking at the deal. No, that's fantastic that the club are willing to fork out that amount of money. But anyway, let's go on to the final point and talk about Kvistgaarden's season. Well, the season just gone as a whole. So, as a whole, he played 38 games. He scored 23 goals and he got 6 assists. So, when you look at it that way, 29 goal involvements in 38 games. Just brilliant. It's brilliant. For a striker to score 23 in the 38, again, it's better than a goal every other game. So that's, again, just great. 6 assists from a striker. You always want players in attack to, of course, score you a lot of goals, but you want them to be selfless creators at the same time. 6 assists for a striker is pretty good going. That is rather impressive. He's clearly... obviously every player who's a striker wants to keep scoring goals, but he cares about his teammates evidently, and he's happy to set them up and do what he wants for the team. So no, 29 goal contributions in 38 games. It's very impressive. It's a goal contribution better, much better actually than a goal contribution every other game. That's what you want from a striker. Like, you always want them to pop up and score you a goal or provide an assist to another teammate and get you goals to win you games. That's how football works. But no, that's great. And again, you can tell from my tone and sort of me smiling throughout the entire video, I'm just really, really pleased Norwich are not backing down from this, it seems. This looks like it's on. This could be happening here. Norwich could be spending a club record fee on an attacking player who is good. he's good. You look at the statistics there. People, obviously you can say, well, the Danish Superliga, is he then going to adapt to the intensity of the Championship and the physicality of it? It can take quite a big toll on players. We're still yet to really see if Mate Jurasek can adapt to it. So it's very, very interesting as to how Kvistgaarden would cope if he were to come to a Championship club and play sort of some difficult teams over the course of the season. But for face value, it's a club record fee on a striker who has got a better, who's doing better than getting a goal contribution every other game, which is great. It's what you want. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below of the potential arrival of Mathias Kvistgaarden. Sorry, that's going to be a bit difficult to say if he does sign over the course of the season. But let me know your thoughts on the signing in the comments below. What do you make of his statistics? Do you like it? Do you maybe not? Do you think Norwich maybe should go for someone else? Let me know your thoughts. But for now, I'm very excited about this personally, and I think it could be on. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. This has been Transfer Talk on the My Football Writer YouTube channel. It's goodbye for now. We'll see you in the next video of ours.